Good evening, viewers. You're watching India Upfront and I'm Swati Joshi. The excise policy introduced by Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi in November last year has become the latest flashpoint. The face-off was triggered by Delhi LG Vinai Saxena recommending a CBI probe in the case, based on a Delhi Chief Secretary's report filed earlier this month, citing procedural lapses. Now, this is a case where Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia is accused of extending undue financial favours to the liquor licensees much after the tenders had been awarded, thereby causing huge losses to the exchequer and allegedly benefiting private liquor barons. Now, the ultimate charge is that of quid pro quo, involving Aam Aadmi Party and liquor traders, something that has been dismissed as fake by Arvind Kejriwal and his team.
Without a cabinet note, without an approval, 144.26 crore was waived off from the liquor cartel, and this was done without adequate approvals, without proper notice to the Lieutenant Governor and other authorities.
आम आदमी पार्टी वाले कट्टर ईमानदार हैं, वो पूरे देश को भरोसा हो गया। आम आदमी पार्टी वाले कट्टर ईमानदार हैं, सारा देश कहता है यार कुछ भी हो, ये लड़के हैं तो ईमानदार। ये लोग झूठे केस बना बना के हमारे ऊपर कीचड़ फेंकना चाहते हैं, ये दिखाना चाहते हैं दुनिया को कि देखो ये भी हमारे जैसे ही हैं, जैसे हम भ्रष्ट हैं ये भी वैसे ही हैं, ये भी भ्रष्टाचारी हैं। पर दुनिया इनके यकीन नहीं कर रही, दुनिया खुद ही कह रही है कि झूठे केस लगा रहे हैं। तो जो मर्जी कर लो, सच सच होता है, झूठ झूठ होता है।
He should change his party's name from Aam Aadmi Party to Vendetta Party, because all they do is during the COVID time when Delhi needed ration, they had sent millions of thousands of migrants outside Delhi. When Delhi needed oxygen, they did politics on oxygen. The important thing was at that time also they were willing to open all these liquor shops just because they wanted to make money, and that is which is very unfortunate. And one minister is already in jail, the other one is ready to go.
पिछले 6 सालों में लगातार हम देखते हैं कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजार में पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम घटते जाते हैं, लेकिन भारत सरकार लगातार पेट्रोल और डीजल पर एक्साइज ड्यूटी लगाकर पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ाती रहती है। और आज आलम कुछ यह है कि पेट्रोल और डीजल 100 रुपए प्रति लीटर का भी जो आंकड़ा है उसे पार कर गया। पेट्रोल और डीजल वो कमोडिटी है जो हर शख्स के जीवन पर डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली प्रभाव डालती है।
This, however, is not the only tussle between Delhi government and the LG. Chief Minister's request to visit Singapore for a mayor's summit has also been causing a lot of political heartburn. While Aam Aadmi Party says this is an opportunity to showcase Delhi's achievements to the world, LG points out that it is not commensurate to the Chief Minister's stature. This refrain has been branded as jealousy born out of AAP's growing popularity, with Chief Minister now asserting that he will in any case go ahead with his Singapore visit.
केंद्र की सरकार, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी अगर दिल्ली के चुने हुए मुख्यमंत्री को विदेश जाने से रोक रहे हैं तो इसमें हमारे दिल्ली वालों का बहुत बड़ा अपमान है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी क्यों नहीं चाहते कि दिल्ली वालों का नाम हो? नरेंद्र मोदी जी क्यों नहीं चाहते कि भारत का नाम हो?
What does he have to show in Singapore? What model does he have in Delhi? Tell me one new school, new college, new hospital, anything has happened on infrastructure. Tell me one new flyover which has been built in the last 7 years. Yes, media do not ask him this question. He doesn't come out and answer these questions, but the people of Delhi will, because all he did during COVID time was to open liquor shops. And you also know, during liquor shop when everything was, there was COVID lockdown, there were what, kilometers of lines where people were standing and buying liquor. That is all he's done in the last 7 years because he wanted money to fight Punjab election, which is very unfortunate, and I'm sure he will get exposed over a course of time.
Well, that's not the only issue. Remember, the BJP has also slammed the Aam Aadmi Party for the freebie culture or the revdi culture. BJP claims is only going to cause more harm. than upliftment of the people. The Aam Aadmi Party, on the other hand, believes that these facilities need to be provided to the people, and that's the job of the government. As far as the latest flashpoint or the latest face-off between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, the Aam Aadmi Party is of the belief that it is the growing popularity of the Aam Aadmi Party that scares BJP, and that is the reason why BJP is targeting leaders of Aam Aadmi Party. In fact, Arvind Kejriwal also reminded that after ED action on Satyendra Jain, he had predicted that the agencies will come after Manish Sisodia. Questions, of course, go out to both sides. As far as the BJP is concerned, BJP has leveled some massive allegations in the excise policy of the Delhi government. The Aam Aadmi Party's rebuttal is that it's nothing but the growing popularity of the Aam Aadmi Party and the stature of the Chief Minister of Delhi that scares the BJP. This is nothing but jealousy. Let's open this up and go across to our guests. We have Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Ishkaran Bhandari, an advocate, is also part of the panel. We have political analyst Ravi Srivastava, Akash Muni, also political analyst, and Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst as well. Good evening to all of you. Tuhin Sinha, my first question is to you. The Aam Aadmi Party says whether it's the Singapore trip, whether it's the LG recommending or demanding a CBI probe in the excise policy, or whether it's BJP's take on Revdi culture or freebie culture, all of this is happening because BJP is scared and jealous of Aam Aadmi Party's growing popularity, and that's why misusing the agencies as well. How do you respond?
Good evening, Swati. Good evening to all your viewers. See, Arvind Kejriwal is largely delusional. Apart from Delhi and Punjab, and in Punjab, again, if even today there is a report in one of the leading newspapers where there is a complete job exodus because of the mismanagement they've done. So barring Delhi, he doesn't have any reach anywhere. And that will again get proved in the next few months when you look at the results in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, where they largely would be contesting to lose deposits and to help the election commission. Now, when it comes to the present case, I will answer both the corruption case as well as the Singapore, the fiasco around his Singapore trip. Now, there are some basic questions which he needs to answer. Was there a violation of GNCTD Act 1991, Transactions and Business Rules 1993, Delhi Excise Act 2009, and Delhi Excise Rules 2010, as has been clearly pointed out by the Chief Secretary in his report, based upon which the Lieutenant Governor has ordered for a CBI inquiry. The second part is the kickbacks. Now, there are two specific instances, which I'm sure you also have, where there is an exemption of rupees 144 crore to a particular cartel, and there is another instance of a particular favor, where there is a clear violation of rules, and that points towards quid pro quo, supposed quid pro quo, and the kickbacks where the money have come from, that needs to be answered. Insofar as the Singapore trip is concerned, again, Arvind Kejriwal needs to stop playing the victim. In the last few months, even the central ministers have followed a process. And in this particular case, where it is pointed out that, it is a conference of mayors, why is Arvind Kejriwal so desperate to go on a junket? If he has to go on a foreign trip, he can sponsor his own trip with his family. But why this desperation to go on a junket for a conference with mayors, unless he considers himself a mayor?
All right, Mr. Muni, respond to that. Now, the allegation is that you're not allowing, or rather opposing, the CBI probe because this is just a cover-up tactic. If nothing wrong has been done, let the investigation take place.
Swati, it is very interesting to note that in 2012, in a rally in Kangra in Himachal Pradesh, our Honorable Prime Minister, who was the Chief Minister then of Gujarat, said the same things about CBI, what the Kejriwal government in Delhi are saying, that CBI is being misused by the central agencies. Interestingly, this makes Aam Aadmi Party stronger at many times. Coming back to the Singapore trip, of course, nobody, no LG, with all respect, LG can give his point of view. But when the good work of a particular government is appreciated around the world, the LG should be happy enough to let the Chief Minister go. When the Chief Minister is only asking him to go, there is no point in that. This shows that how desperate the Bhartiya Janta Party government is in center and the states. Thirdly, coming back to the question on excise thing. You know, one thing that is very, very important is that we have seen number of examples. You have seen the Kashmir migrants issue, where so much debate was there, and then it went nowhere. 150 cases against MLAs has been registered against Aam Aadmi Party, which is going nowhere. So ultimately, you'll find that this particular case will also go nowhere.
Okay, but Mr. Muni, what about the specific questions that BJP has posed?
You know one thing, Swati, specific questions regarding the excise policy. You also know that exchequer has been, the amount in the exchequer has increased rather than decreased after the excise policy. You know, we have seen there has been a 1,300 crore rise in the 4 months of excise policy after implementation of the excise policy, and number of people can negate it, but the figures don't lie. So
okay, figures don't lie. Ishkaran Bhandari, you are saying, or rather the BJP is alleging that there has been a loss as far as the exchequer is concerned. But Sanjay Singh of the Aam Aadmi Party and Mr. Muni also claim that, in fact, you know, the policy that the BJP is questioning has earned Delhi a revenue of 1,300 crores. Also, where is the proof of corruption? Where is the proof that Manish Sisodia is involved, has given undue favors, and there has been a financial irregularity?
Swati, firstly, let's deal with both the issues. One, I think, is a slightly frivolous issue, Singapore permission to go or not go. Personally, I would have been in favor of giving a permission to a person who has been elected by the people of Delhi. But bureaucracy has its own rules, and Lieutenant Governor is bound by those rules. And Kejriwal government can always challenge it in the High Court that it has been unfairly denied. Personal opinion, I think it plays to Kejriwal's strength to make him appear as a victim when you deny a thing which is as nothing great as going to Singapore, where mayors are having conference, or XYZ is having a conference. But the second issue is a serious issue. That is the issue of LG giving permission on corruption, on asking for a CBI investigation. Firstly, let us be very clear. That permission has not come on whims and fancies. It's come on a report by the Chief Secretary, where the Chief Secretary in his report has found certain procedural wrongs. And not only procedural wrongs, it has been specified what are those wrongs. Firstly, let me put it this way. 30 crore earnest money being returned. Anybody dealing with the government knows that no matter what the ground, without a court order, government or the governmental departments are loath to release any amount of money. You could have the best case, but you have to go to court, get a court order. That is the ordinary practice of anybody who deals with government. So was that money returned, or was that not returned? Was that returned as per law? Was that not returned as per law? Those will be found out by the CBI only by investigating. Second aspect, was 144 crore loss caused? And if that loss was caused, or if that benefit was given, was that given as per procedure? Was that given not as per procedure? That is also a documentary thing. And third aspect, that decisions were made and then ex post facto cabinet approvals were sought. That will also be, timeline will be visible in the government orders. So all that can be found by CBI by investigation. Let us wait for the investigation result to come out.
Ravi Srivastava, why block investigation? Let the investigation take place.
First of all, nobody's investigation. This is the BJP typical
standard political vendetta which they have played against 102 opposition leaders. The PMLA case or ED case or CBI case and all. Chief Secretary is a Ministry of Home appointee. He is a BJP man for that matter. LG is a BJP appointed government man. He is a BJP person. The agencies are misused by the BJP-led government. So everywhere BJP is visible. Do the inquiry. Who is stopping? 150 cases we have done. You have done the MLAs. In 40 cases, 50% have already been acquitted by the court with a strict warning by the court that please don't make the flimsy cases. 40% of the MLA cases, the charge sheet has not been filed in 8 years. And what conviction have you done? What is the rate of conviction? Just to harass the government, just to stop the work of the good work of Aam Aadmi Party, they are increasing their footprint across the country. Whether it is Karnataka, whether it is Gujarat, whether it is MP, whether any other state, they have put up their footprint, they are winning the elections there. 154 MLAs, 2 chief ministers, 10 Rajya Sabha MPs. What do you want? Which party has progressed so much in the last 10 years? Show me. No one. So that's what is
so you're saying,
Modi, and that is his fear. That is
so you're saying you're saying that as far as national politics is concerned, Aam Aadmi Party is increasing its footprint, it's broadening its horizons, and that is something that worries or scares the BJP. I'll take a response from Tuhin Sinha, but I want to bring in Tehseen Poonawalla as well. You're watching everything from the sidelines, Tehseen Poonawalla. Is this about political vendetta? Is this just about a power tussle happening, not just in the national capital, but like the Aam Aadmi Party saying that netas being hounded across the country?
Namaskar, Swati. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. Let's divide this into two issues. One, the Singapore issue, which I completely am in agreement with my friend Ishkaran Bhandari, that if an elected chief minister wants to go, even if he wants to downgrade himself to that of a mayor, that's fine. He's elected. He's been elected by the people of Delhi, and he has an absolute right to go. And honestly, if Mr. Kejriwal is being stopped, it looks bad on the BJP government, it looks bad on the bureaucracy, and he has an option to go to court. So I think that is a non-issue about it. And, I don't think people who are elected should be stopped. That's one part about it. Now let's come to the more pertinent issue, which is the excise policy. Look, somebody who understands how government functions, there are two or three things. This is a report not made by a political party. It's not made by the Congress or the BJP. It's made by the Chief Secretary. Who's Chief Secretary? Mr. Kejriwal's government's Chief Secretary. Now, even if there's a cabinet nod, even if a decision has been taken, anybody who understands how government functions, that has to go to the Chief Secretary. In this particular case, the Excise Secretary and the Finance Secretary for a nod for two cases. One is for the waiver of the license fee or the reduction of the license fee. Second, for the refund of the 30 crore rupees. Both of this have to go to these three departments. Now, if Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Sisodia have done no wrong, which I absolutely believe Mr. Sisodia is innocent until proven guilty, the remarks of those bureaucrats will have to be there. How is it possible that the Chief Secretary, who's recommending to the LG that there must be a CBI inquiry, would not have put recommendations on the same file, because the file has to go through him, again, the Excise Secretary and the Finance Secretary. So we'll come to know that any procedural lapse will be looked at by the CBI. Was this procedural lapse intentional, or was this procedural lapse for a betterment of government, can come to know? So so that they should not be afraid of. To the larger issue that Mr. Kejriwal is raising about vindictive politics, here's what I want to say. Mr. Kejriwal has an option even now to go to court, present his case, take Mr. Sisodia, get an anticipatory bail from Mr. Sisodia. You have Ishkaran Bhandari, is a fantastic lawyer, get an anticipatory bail. But Mr. Kejriwal should reflect one thing. When he ran the fraud movement with Anna Hazare, and I know Anna Hazare very well personally, he went about calling everyone a thief. Everyone a thief. This was language used by Mr. Kejriwal. Now, the roosters have come home to croak, so as the saying goes. He has to face it. What he held as the standard for other people, why should it be different for
Akash Muni, the party was born out of the anti-corruption crusade. Now what we are witnessing is a slew of allegations being levelled, action being taken against AAP netas. Of course, the recent one, apart from Satyendra Jain, is the unceremonious sacking of Punjab Minister Vijay Singla.
You know, one thing, Vijay Singla has been sacked not by anybody else, the government itself. Second important thing is that, in case of Satyendra Jain, 2 months have passed and charge sheet has not been filed, and you have kept a cabinet minister of the state government in jail. Now, the point the people are making, and the point will the country make, that yes, there has been vindictive politics. Whatever you say, you have denied the good work. Health Ministry has done a very good work of Delhi. Education Ministry has done outstandingly good work. You see the schools, you see the Mohalla clinics. I have myself gone to Delhi. And you go to any other, now listen to me, Swati. The thing is that go to any other state. Where is the schools? Where are the good schools? Now you are pointing finger upon the Education Minister. Definitely you can do that. But the people of this country, and remember, Gujarat elections is coming, and of course there will be impact. You see this.
Remember, Gujarat elections are nearing, Tuhin Sinha. There will be an impact. Mr. Kejriwal is saying, I said so. When ED came for Satyendra Jain, I said that Manish Sisodia was next in line, that he was going to be targeted next.
Aam Aadmi Party is the hub of corruption, as Tehseen himself pointed out, right from defrauding Anna Hazare ji, they have only indulged in corruption. The first serious corruption charges against them were made by Kapil Mishra in 2017, and a large part of it was corroborated recently in the arrest of Satyendra Jain. Please don't interfere. Please have that courtesy. And if they were so convinced about Satyendra Jain's innocence in the last 2 months, have they managed to obtain any legal relief? No. So Arvind Kejriwal is basically following the same line which he followed on Satyendra Jain, that because of the elections they are being targeted. But rest assured, Aam Aadmi Party has a history of losing their deposit money and helping the election commission. They are going to do the same. They did the same in Goa.
But the Punjab story was different.
Serious. I don't think
the Punjab story was different. You're not talking about Punjab.
There was a political vacuum because the Congress suddenly collapsed and BJP somehow could not encash on that opportunity. But anyway, there is a different point over here. There are very specific violations pointed out in the report, in the exhaustive report of the Chief Secretary, and I don't think there should be any problem for the Aam Aadmi Party. One last point, also look at the haste in which this new excise policy was implemented at the peak of the COVID second wave, when people were dying in, the way first Manish Sisodia was authorized to take all decisions, then subsequently they had the cabinet meeting to authorize the cabinet to take a decision, to authorize Manish Sisodia. That the decision of the cabinet was flagged by the Lieutenant Governor, but for 2 months they went ahead with the decision taken in that cabinet meeting against all rules. So I think that they have a lot to answer, and they better face it rather than indulging in political rhetoric on this issue.
Ravi Srivastava wants to come in.
Yes, the BJP spokesperson talking so much about the corruption, I think you should remember that their party has already sent some 5 or 6 top industrialists out of the country who had siphoned some 50,000-60,000 crores of rupees. And just 2 months before, one gentleman named Rishi Agarwal of ABG Shipyard swindled the State Bank of India for 20,000 crores. What action has been taken against it? Nothing. You only take a plank. And Aam Aadmi Party, when the party formed the government in Delhi, the first thing you did was to take away the ACB. And subsequently, all kind of inquiries, vigilance are under the LG. What Arvind Kejriwal, whom he can catch, where he can catch the people?
These industrialists. Just a quick, I'll just quickly revert him.
Please, now don't speak in between. Last 3 elections, you have been beaten blue in Delhi, the BJP. And still you have the guts to say that Aam Aadmi Party is corrupt. They are doing the work. You see it internationally acknowledged. The Trump wife comes here.
Sir, Mr. Ravi Srivastava, like Akash Muni said, you yourself have acted against one of your own.
Why have they called?
So while yes, you did act against one of your own, but you cannot completely deny what is being said. Tuhin Sinha wants to come in for a quick rebuttal. And then Tehseen Poonawala.
He said, Ravi Srivastava said that we allowed 4 or 5 industrialists to escape. Please understand, that escape was a lapse. But in the last 4 or 5 years, the ED has seized hundreds of crores of worth of their property. They must be regretting the decision not to come back to the country. We have ended the corruption of the 10 years of UPA, where all of these nefarious activities were flourishing. She will never acknowledge.
One thing, Swati, 2 things.
Okay, Tehseen Poonawala also wants to come in. Since Tuhin Sinha is saying we have ended corruption, Raj of the UPA, Tehseen Poonawala wants to come in.
The 2 quick points. My friend Mr. Srivastava said, look, the AAP has been winning elections, beating BJP, Congress, black and blue. I concede to that point. So for 65 years, the Congress was winning elections. Why did Arvind Kejriwal and Anna Hazare do the drama of corruption? I mean, logic doesn't make sense, right? You'll only be corrupt when you're in power. You will not be corrupt when you're out of power. So he's contradicting himself. That's no logic. Let's come to the more moot and substantial points, so we can have a substantial debate. Akashdeep made 2 points. Number 1, Akashdeep, you still haven't answered why doesn't Mr. Manish Sisodia or Mr. Satyendra Jain see the court's recourse for either an anticipatory bail or for getting out of jail, as Mr. Jain has said. Why are you continuing to stay in jail? It's not like Mr. Modi or anyone else is forcibly putting in jail. Go to court, seek bail. If you don't have a good lawyer, Ishkaran on the show. Go to him, consult him. I'm telling you, you'll get advice. Number two, and the more pertinent point. Akashdeep says, look, we've constructed schools, we've constructed this. Akashdeep, yes or no, was one of the cartels who got a license associated with a party to whose member, Mr. Kejriwal, apologized in writing for illegal, illicit selling of drugs and alcohol. And today that man, Mr. Majidya, is in jail. Yes or no? You all did. And yet you all have given the same person you all apologized to a license. Why? Number one. Number two, can you please tell the citizens of Delhi and the citizens of India how was 30 crore refunded? Can you show the paperwork of that? Why is that not being given by the bureaucrats? And third, one last thing. You said we've constructed so many schools. Today I want you to expose Tuhin, expose me, and expose Ishkaran. Tell us 2 new schools you've constructed, not schools renovated which Sheila Dixit constructed of
okay. Let's give Mr. Muni a chance.
I'll expose you. Mr. Poonawala, I'll expose you today. Okay. In Punjab, what you have done? Do you know what you have done? No. Let me talk to you.
Okay. 1 second. Mr. Muni, also respond to the questions.
You have talked about exposing. Let me tell you what you have done in Punjab. You know the condition of Punjab. I am still in Punjab. You are in Delhi. I know the condition of Punjab. There are huge fiscal deficit in Punjab. 20 lakh crore. Who has done this? Congress. Second thing, municipal corporations are not working here. Roads are in water. Have you seen this? Come to Punjab. Pagwada aa jao. ठीक है? आ जाओ. घुस के आ जाओ. 6 महीने पहले गवर्नमेंट में
Sir, you're on a national TV.
No.
Mr. Muni, there are some specific questions that have been asked.
One thing.
Talk gently, sir. You're on a national TV.
There are some specific questions that have been asked, Mr. Muni. Can you provide a point-by-point rebuttal to that?
But please don't say that we'll be exposing you. With all respect, I am speaking.
Sir, tell me which school you opened. Tell the people of India.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you the address. Okay. In Malkaganj, Kabir Basti. Okay. Go there. Watch a school. Okay. In Sheila Dixit time, that school was not there.
We are talking about null status program for 10 crore.
No. I am talking about. No, you are. No, you can talk.
1 second, Mr. Srivastava. 1 second.
When I am speaking, I'll just make 1 point, Swati. Mr. Poonawala, respectfully, I want to tell it to you that in Kabir Basti, Malkaganj, there is a school which was broken, which my family members went to that school, and there was.
So it existed before, right?
No.
It existed before.
Let me complete.
I'm asking you a new school that existed, they broke it, made it. I'm saying tell me a new school you started.
Now then you will be talking about this in the national television. Now let me complete.
But you brought out a school.
Is that a new school, Mr. Muni? Is that a new school?
Condition. In MCD also. MCD also, recently I was on 10th floor, that schools were in dilapidated condition. See the Delhi schools.
Okay. And see the Delhi schools and you will know the difference. Okay, I want to bring in Ishkaran Bhandari. Ishkaran Bhandari, another allegation is that these agencies are only targeting opposition leaders across states. And it's not just the Aam Aadmi party. Other leaders of other opposition parties are also being targeted. Is corruption only prevalent in these parties?
Swati, on lighter side, Mr. Muni wants to expose Tehseen Poonawala, but I hope Tehseen will not go Ranveer Singh route and expose a lot of things which needs not be exposed, because he is very fond of doing it. But anyways, on a serious note of the case, please understand these are all documented things. How is 30 crores returned? That has to be as per procedure, and anybody who deals with government, Tehseen is right there, knows how difficult it is to get money from the government. And how 30 crores is released should be there. Secondly,
let him finish, Srivastava ji, please.
Let me finish, and let us stick to the case. And when was the permissions given, and was the cabinet proposal ex post facto? Also the notings on the file by the bureaucrats, be it chief secretary, be it excise secretary, it is all documentary. So let's have patience, let it come out. And to the last aspect, where it's the constant refrain that BJP is trying to frame people, please remember Anil Deshmukh, a very powerful home minister. The same defense was taken and he is in jail for multiple months now. So please wait for the process, trust the system and trust the judiciary.
Okay, now Mr. Srivastava, you can go ahead.
See, I just want to say what Mr. Tehseen Poonawala said. By the same analogy, you say once you are in power, then only you do corruption. Exactly, 50% of the country is ruled by the BJP, more than that, and they are indulging in the corruption. It's a fact. Now, as far as this issue is concerned of 30 crore, this is AAP, they have refunded the security deposit. If any tender or any contract is finalized and the whatever money as an earnest money deposit or as a security deposit is taken by the particular tenderer, that money has to be refunded. But I am not getting into that. What I am saying is, let the law take its own course.
Okay, so you are saying there is no problem with the CBI. If the CBI investigates, there is no problem. दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल दूध का दूध पानी का पानी होना चाहिए.
Okay, Tuhin Sinha, Ravi Srivastava says they are all right with it. It's fine. Let the CBI go ahead and investigate. They're not blocking the investigation. That is what Ravi Srivastava believes.
Two quick points. ये जो कह रहे हैं कि 30 करोड़ return कर दिया तो क्या? Over there, there is a supposed violation of rule. The rule suggests that once somebody successfully bid, it is his responsibility to complete all responsibilities. Government does not have to refund the bidder. Prima facie, that is the rule. So if a state government goes out of the way to refund when it is not needed, doesn't that cast aspersions of the state government? Secondly, an important point that I want to make is that I say this with responsibility. Most of India's opposition parties are today outright corrupt. If today Anil Deshmukh is in jail, as Ishkaran pointed out, in the last 1 year, he's not managed to obtain bail. If Hemant Soren, there are serious charges of corruption where, as a mining minister, he was leasing out mines to Hemant Soren, the businessman. This is the kind of corruption.
Yes, but let's not also forget that the matter is in court, and ultimately the court will decide. The charges will have to be proven in the court of law. As far as the tussle between the BJP and the AAP is concerned, the BJP, based on the Chief Secretary's report, says procedural lapses took place and the Deputy Chief Minister is responsible. Aam Aadmi Party has hit back saying this is nothing but politics and BJP's jealousy because AAP is expanding. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us in the broadcast.